Imagine coming home after, just an absolutely grueling day. Your muscles are stiff, you're practically vibrating with tension, and your brain feels completely fried from back-to-back meetings, endless emails, and just the general overwhelming chaos of modern life.
Yes, absolutely. We've all been there.
Right. And usually this is the part where you collapse onto the living room couch and spend the next 2 hours endlessly scrolling on your phone trying to numb out. But instead, imagine walking right past that couch. You open a door and you step into your own personal glowing wellness sanctuary.
Which sounds amazing, honestly.
It really does. Just you, quiet isolation, and a deeply penetrating heat that forces your nervous system to just finally power down.
The appeal of a dedicated physical space for recovery, it really cannot be overstated, especially given how overstimulated our daily environments have become.
Yeah, we're just constantly plugged in.
Exactly. Having a forced environment where relaxation is literally the only option, it's a highly effective way to break that stress cycle.
And that exact picture is the mission of our deep dive today. We're taking a comprehensive look at a highly rated piece of recovery tech that promises to be that sanctuary for you. We're talking about the Sun Home Equinox 3-person full-spectrum infrared sauna.
It's a big one.
It is. We have compiled the spec sheets, we've combed through the actual customer feedback, and we pulled the independent health research surrounding infrared therapy. We're doing a critical but generally positive review to figure out if this premium heat box genuinely justifies the investment and, the floor space.
Because it does take up some serious floor space.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's look at the physical reality of what you are actually bringing into your house, because you aren't just tossing this into a spare closet.
No. Not at all. The physical footprint is substantial, and the materials dictate a lot about how this unit actually functions. We are talking about a 3-person cabin built entirely from eco-certified kiln-dried eucalyptus wood.
Wait, why specifically kiln-dried? Is that just a fancy marketing term?
Well, no, the kiln drying process is actually vital here. Think about it. When you take a physical structure and rapidly cycle it from a 70-degree room temperature to a 150-degree internal temperature on a daily basis, standard wood is going to warp. It'll crack, it'll splinter.
Oh, right, because of the moisture.
Exactly. Removing the moisture through kiln drying prevents that extreme thermal expansion and contraction.
Plus, in a high heat environment, you really have to think about off-gassing. If you're sitting in a tiny enclosed box, breathing heavily as your heart rate goes up, the absolute last thing you want is cheap plywood glue or synthetic resins releasing volatile organic compounds into your lungs.
Yeah, VOCs are a real concern in cheaper models.
Right. So the eucalyptus isn't just an aesthetic choice. I mean, it is a non-toxic health requirement.
It is. Which brings us to the dimensions and the logistics of the thing. Internally, it is very spacious. It's 56.8 inches wide, 39.9 inches deep, and 70.3 inches high.
That's a good size.
It is, but you cannot simply wedge this tight into a corner of your basement. The manufacturer actually requires 4 to 6 inches of clearance completely around the unit and another 8 to 10 inches above the roof.
Really? Why so much extra space?
The ambient air needs to circulate to prevent the exterior from overheating the surrounding walls of your house.
Okay, so you really need to map out your room with a tape measure before clicking buy. But here is the number on the spec sheet that actually made me stop and reread it. 620 pounds.
It's heavy.
Very heavy.
You are bringing 620 pounds of dense wood and heating panels into your house. I mean, that's like moving a grand piano.
It really is. But the density is intentional. Dense mass retains thermal energy much better than thin, lightweight materials, which helps maintain a consistent internal temperature without the heaters just constantly overworking themselves.
Makes sense, but it definitely presents a massive logistical hurdle for delivery and installation. You need a real plan.
You do. Though reviewers do point out that the actual assembly is surprisingly straightforward. Yeah, I saw that. It's like a modular panel system.
Right. It usually takes 2 people about 1 to 2 hours to snap and screw it together.
But getting those 100-pound individual panels down a narrow flight of basement stairs, you are going to want to recruit a couple of strong friends, maybe buy them pizza.
Definitely buy them pizza.
But once the physical heavy lifting is done, we really have to talk about the electrical setup. The marketing materials claim this runs on a standard 120-volt household circuit.
And we need to clarify what standard actually means in this context, because this is where a lot of homeowners get caught completely off guard.
Right.
The Equinox 3 runs on 120 volts, yes, but it requires a 20-amp circuit. A typical living room or bedroom wall outlet is only 15 amps, and it's wired with thinner 14-gauge wire.
So if you just plug this massive sauna into the same outlet where you plug in your bedside lamp?
You are going to immediately trip the breaker the second those high-output heaters kick on.
Yeah.
Almost instantly.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, a 20-amp device requires a specific NEMA 520 receptacle. That's the outlet that has one standard vertical slot and one T-shaped horizontal slot. And it must be connected to 12-gauge wiring, leading back to a 20-amp breaker in your electrical panel.
So you really do need to go down to your breaker box and check before you order this thing.
You absolutely do. What's fascinating here is that despite that requirement, this is still a massive advantage over the alternative.
Oh, because of the 240-volt issue with other saunas.
Exactly. Most multi-person traditional saunas require a dedicated 240-volt line, which means hiring a licensed electrician to tear up your drywall, run massive cables, and install a custom sub-panel.
And that can easily add like $1,000 or more in hidden installation costs.
Easily. With the Equinox 3, if you already have a 20-amp outlet in your garage or basement, which, a lot of modern homes actually do, you can essentially plug it in and turn it on.
It dramatically lowers the barrier to entry for a home installation. And once it is plugged in and you hit that power button, the electrical draw goes directly into a very robust heating system.
This unit uses a hybrid approach, right?
Right. It uses 5 far-infrared heaters paired with 2 500-watt full-spectrum heaters.
Okay, so we see the term full spectrum plastered all over wellness marketing right now, and it can honestly start to sound like meaningless jargon.
Yeah.
I mean, is it like taking a multivitamin instead of just vitamin C? How exactly does a full-spectrum infrared heater interact with the human body differently than a basic, cheaper, far-infrared heater?
That multivitamin analogy is actually spot on. Think of infrared wavelengths a bit like sound waves.
Okay.
Near-infrared is like the high-pitched treble notes in a song. It has a very short wavelength, so it doesn't penetrate very deeply. It essentially just bounces against the surface of your skin.
Interesting. So what does that actually do? When it hits the skin, it stimulates the mitochondria in your outer cells.
Yeah.
Which is why near-infrared is heavily associated with superficial benefits, like collagen production, skin rejuvenation, and localized surface wound healing.
Okay, so the treble hits the surface. What about the far infrared?
Far infrared is like the deep, rumbling bass. It has a much longer wavelength. Just like bass can pass right through walls and vibrate your chest, far infrared light bypasses the surface of the skin and penetrates deep into your soft tissue, up to about 1.5 inches deep.
Wow, 1.5 inches.
Yeah. It directly excites the water molecules inside your tissue, which raises your core body temperature from the inside out, rather than just heating the air around you. This is what triggers that massive, deep core sweat and profound muscle relaxation.
And then there's mid-infrared, right?
Right. Mid-infrared sits right in between, and it's heavily linked to improving circulation and expanding blood vessels. So by combining all three, near, mid, and far, you are addressing the entire biological spectrum in one single session.
That makes perfect sense. And because it's pulling a full 20 amps, these heaters are incredibly high output. I mean, the spec sheets show it hitting 120 degrees Fahrenheit in under 20 minutes and reaching its peak around 150 degrees in about 35 minutes.
Which is incredibly fast for a unit this size.
It really is. And if you are trying to build a consistent habit, that heat up speed is crucial. If you get home from a long commute on a Tuesday, you do not have the patience to sit around for an hour waiting for a wooden box to get hot.
No, you'll just go watch TV instead. Friction is the enemy of any new habit. The faster the unit heats up, the more likely you are to use it 4 or 5 times a week. And frequency is the absolute most critical variable when we look at the physiological benefits of heat exposure.
Yeah, let's dive into those biological mechanisms because the health claims around sauna use are honestly staggering. The one that always comes up is that famous 20-year Finnish study.
Oh yes, a landmark study.
Yeah, tracking over 2,300 men. The data showed that using a sauna 4 to 7 times a week correlated with a 66% lower risk of dementia and a 65% lower risk of Alzheimer's compared to using it just once a week. But, how does simply sitting in a hot room protect your brain from cognitive decline?
It mostly comes down to a physiological response involving heat shock proteins and cardiovascular mimicry.
Heat shock proteins?
Yeah, so when you raise your core body temperature significantly, your body essentially believes it is running a fever. In response to this sudden thermal stress, your cells release these heat shock proteins, which basically act like cellular mechanics.
Okay, cellular mechanics.
Right. Their job is to find misfolded proteins in your cells and either repair them or clear them out. In conditions like Alzheimer's, you have an accumulation of misfolded amyloid plaques in the brain. So the theory is that regular heat exposure constantly deploys these cellular mechanics to go in and clean up the brain.
So you are basically tricking your body into a state of emergency repair.
Precisely. Additionally, sitting in a 150-degree room for 20 minutes causes your heart rate to elevate significantly. It often matches the cardiovascular load of a moderate Zone 2 cardio workout.
Without having to actually run on a treadmill.
Exactly. Your blood vessels dilate to push blood to your skin to try and cool you down, which simultaneously flushes your brain with highly oxygenated blood, improving vascular health in the brain over the long term.
Okay, but I have to push back here for a second.
Sure.
That Finnish study was based on traditional wood-fired saunas, right? The kind where you throw water on hot rocks and it gets up to like 190 degrees. Can we really assume that sitting in a 150-degree dry infrared sauna triggers the exact same biological mechanisms?
That is a really vital distinction to make. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we cannot assume a perfect one-to-one correlation. That study showed an association, not definitive proof, that infrared specifically cures these ailments.
Yeah.
However, the underlying trigger for heat shock proteins and cardiovascular dilation is the elevation of your core body temperature. While a traditional sauna heats the air to 190 degrees to heat you from the outside in, the far infrared wavelengths penetrate your tissue to raise your core temperature from the inside out, doing so at a lower ambient temperature.
Oh, okay. So the delivery method is different, but the end result is similar.
Exactly. The physiological destination, an elevated core temperature, and a heavy cardiovascular sweat response is largely the same. And the Mayo Clinic actually supports this, noting that infrared saunas show strong positive signals for lowering high blood pressure, relieving arthritis, and improving mood, with no reported harmful effects.
The physiological benefits are incredibly compelling, and the high-output full-spectrum tech clearly delivers on that front. But, no premium product is without its flaws. Let's look at where the Equinox 3 might fall short for certain buyers. Let's do a quick victory lap of the pros first, though. We've got the full spectrum heating, standard 120V plug, low VOC non-toxic materials, built-in Bluetooth audio, and a limited lifetime warranty. But here's where it gets really interesting.
The tech gap.
Yes, the tech gap. There is a glaring omission for a premium device here. No Wi-Fi and no app connectivity. You cannot start this sauna from your phone while you're driving home from work.
Which feels almost jarring for a piece of tech at this premium price point. You can buy a $50 coffee maker that lets you start a brew from your phone while you're still in bed.
Exactly. But you cannot remotely preheat this high-end wellness device. It does include a built-in Bluetooth audio system to play music or podcasts once you are inside, but the control panel itself is strictly analog. You have to walk up to the physical box and push the button.
And for a consumer paying top-tier prices, the expectation is generally that the device will integrate into their smart home setup. If you want to use the sauna at 6:00 a.m., you have to physically walk down to the basement at 5:30 a.m. to turn it on, rather than just, tapping a widget on your phone.
But let me offer a different perspective on that. Is the lack of an app genuinely a flaw, or is it like a feature disguised as a limitation?
How do you mean?
Well, think back to the entire purpose of this device. It is a forced sanctuary. It is designed to disconnect you from the constant pinging, the notifications, the screen time. By forcing you to use a physical control panel and leaving your phone outside the box, it essentially mandates a digital detox.
That is a very fair psychological argument. It enforces boundaries. However, from a purely logistical standpoint, the lack of remote scheduling removes a layer of convenience that competitors in this space are currently offering.
Yeah, that's true.
Another technical nuance that requires some serious scrutiny is the electromagnetic field, or EMF rating.
Oh yeah, this is a huge topic in the biohacking space right now. Anytime you run electrical current through heating panels, especially 20 amps of current, you are generating an electromagnetic field.
Exactly. Sun Home advertises the Equinox 3 as utilizing innovative low EMF heating technology. However, they do not publicly list the exact milligauss or mg readings in their general spec sheets.
And milligauss is just the unit used to measure the strength of a magnetic field, right?
Correct.
Why does the exact number matter so much if the company says it's low?
This raises an important question about transparency, because low is a completely relative term. Health organizations set the general public exposure limit for magnetic fields at a massive 2,000 millijoule.
Wow, 2,000.
Yeah, but within the holistic wellness community, the standard for a truly low EMF sauna is often considered anything under 3 to 5 millijoule.
Oh, that's a massive difference.
It is. Furthermore, independent testing across the industry frequently shows that full-spectrum heaters, because they draw more power, can sometimes produce elevated magnetic field readings compared to just a basic far-infrared panels.
Ah, I see.
This is especially relevant because some of these heaters are mounted on the rear wall, meaning they're positioned literally only inches away from your spinal cord.
And that proximity is exactly why people care about EMFs in saunas. The intensity of an electromagnetic field drops off exponentially the further away you get from the source. It's called the inverse square law. But if your back is pressed right up against the wood covering the panel, you are getting the maximum possible exposure.
Exactly.
So if limiting EMF exposure is a primary health priority for you, do not just accept the marketing copy. Reach out to Sun Home customer support and ask them to provide their third-party independent testing data showing the exact milligauss readings at 0 inches from the heaters.
Transparency is key when investing in health technology. So we have the immense raw heating power, the non-toxic build, the missing app convenience, and the EMF questions. How does this all translate to the actual user experience?
Well, looking at the data across 61 verified customer reviews, the real-world consensus is actually incredibly strong. The Equinox 3 holds a 4.9-star average.
That's very impressive.
It is. What you see over and over is that the core promise, the heat, absolutely delivers. A reviewer named Aldo S. specifically pointed out how solid the eucalyptus construction felt compared to thinner hemlock woods, and he validated our earlier point about the heat times, noting it hit 120 degrees much faster than the other brands he had tested.
We also see clear evidence of habit formation in the reviews. For instance, Chris K. left a review detailing how the sauna has become a nightly, non-negotiable ritual for him and his partner to wind down and ease muscle soreness.
Nightly, that's dedication.
Right. They're hitting that critical 4 to 5 times a week frequency because the physical experience inside the cabin is just so effective.
But the frustrations are also well documented, and honestly, they align exactly with our technical breakdown. Reviewer Andrew B. praised the aggressive heat, noting that his unit regularly gets him drenched in sweat at temperatures in the 160s, but he really vented his annoyance over the lack of a Sun Home app.
It's a sticking point for a lot of people.
Yeah. And similarly, Josh S. highlighted the superior build quality, but mentioned that the lack of Wi-Fi actually caused him a lot of confusion post-purchase. He spent time trying to troubleshoot a connection with customer support because he simply assumed a premium device would just have it built in.
Which reinforces the point that consumer expectations for smart tech are deeply ingrained now. Companies really need to be incredibly clear when they intentionally leave those features out.
Completely agree. So, taking all the specs, the biological science, and the real-world feedback into account, we need to clearly define who should actually buy this unit and who should pass.
The ideal buyer for the Sun Home Equinox 3 is a couple or a small family with dedicated square footage. A spacious basement, an insulated garage, or a home gym that can comfortably house a 5x4-foot heavy wooden structure. It is built for the user who prioritizes raw, high-output thermal performance and the comprehensive cellular benefits of full-spectrum light over digital convenience. They want a non-toxic environment. They have verified that their breaker box can handle a 20-amp load with a NEMA 520 plug, and they are perfectly happy controlling their ambient music via Bluetooth.
So, what does this all mean? It means if you are someone who fundamentally requires smart home integration to manage your busy schedule, or if you live in a space-constrained apartment where every square inch matters, this is not your machine.
No, definitely not.
You will want to explore competitors that offer Wi-Fi apps, or maybe look into Sun Home's smaller single-person models that run on a standard 15-amp circuit. But if you have the space and you have the power, this thing is a beast.
To synthesize this whole deep dive, the Equinox 3 is an uncompromising, beautifully constructed powerhouse of a sauna. It deliberately sheds modern app-based conveniences to focus entirely on delivering a rapid, deeply penetrating full-spectrum sweat within a safe, eco-certified enclosure.
If that raw performance sounds like the exact upgrade your physical and mental routine has been waiting for, and you are ready to finally step out of the chaos and into your own sanctuary, you can purchase the Sun Home Equinox 3 right now by clicking the link in the description below.
When you step back and look at the broader context of this deep dive, there is a fascinating irony to it.
How so?
Well, For thousands of years, humans have relied on intense heat and sweat as a fundamental health practice. From the ancient Roman baths to traditional Native American sweat lodges, the biological triggers really haven't changed.
Right. Our bodies still react the exact same way.
Exactly. We are now utilizing highly calibrated, localized full-spectrum light waves and specialized 20-amp electrical circuits to replicate this ancient biological necessity right in our basements. But historically, these sweat practices were deeply communal and social.
Oh, that's a great point.
Now, we are isolating the experience into a single-family wooden box. It makes you wonder, what other ancient human health habits are we currently ignoring that could use a 21st century technological upgrade? Or, in our pursuit of customized, isolated wellness, what essential communal elements are we accidentally engineering right out of the equation?
Wow, that is an incredible question to leave on. Are we optimizing the biology but losing the community? It's definitely something to think about while you're sitting in the heat. At the end of the day, we are all just looking for a highly effective way to wash off the stress of the modern world. Thanks for joining us, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.